every part of you has a reason for being there. Every part has a positive intention, even the ones that seem like a problem. The people pleaser? Learn to keep the peace. The critic? Tries to keep you safe. The part that procrastinates might be protecting you from shame. They're not broken. They're doing what they know. So if fixing yourself doesn't work, what does? Integration looks like cooperation, not control. When your parts work together, then you don't have to force it. You lead with calm. You respond instead of react. You stop running from the parts that you're afraid of.
Welcome to Beyond Success, the podcast for high achievers seeking deeper meaning, fulfillment, and purpose. Now, here's your host, world-renowned leadership coach and therapist, Tian, Ph.D.
There's a part of you that wants to do more, be more, prove that you're not just getting by, that you're going somewhere. And that part probably got you pretty far already. It made sure you worked hard, didn't slack off, held it together even when things got really tough. But there's another part too, one you don't let out much, the one that's tired, the one that wonders if this is all there is, if the status, the success, the wins are supposed to feel this hollow. When the pace slows or the noise fades, that part starts to speak up. It doesn't want more tips or hacks. It wants something deeper. It wants peace. It wants connection. It wants to feel like life means something again. And for some of us, the same hardworking achiever parts are also the ones that are burnt out and exhausted. That's what we're getting into today. Because emotional strength isn't just about managing hard stuff. It's about becoming whole again, welcoming the parts of you that got left behind. That kind of strength doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from listening, from leading yourself, not just performing for others. When that shift happens, everything inside gets lighter. There's more ease, more energy, more clarity in how to move forward. But when it doesn't happen, when that part stays buried, life can stall, or worse, go numb. You keep doing the things that should make you feel alive, but they don't land. And even when others think you've made it, you just don't feel it. In this episode, I'll show you how wholeness isn't the end of this journey. It's also the start of the next one. Because the work doesn't stop once you fix yourself. The real work is learning to love all of you and lead from that place. I'm Tian. For almost the past 2 decades, I've been helping hundreds of thousands of people from over 87 countries find fulfillment, meaning, and success in their personal and professional lives. And in this episode, I've got 3 points, and here's the first. Most people think they need to fix themselves. Like, be more focused, be less emotional, be stronger, more driven, more disciplined. Cut out the messy stuff. That's the story we're told from early on in our lives, especially if you're ambitious, and especially if you're a man. Emotions? Weak. Needing support? Unprofessional. Slowing down? Lazy. So most of us split our personalities. We put the high-performing parts of ourselves in charge. The one that works late. The one that never lets things slide. The one that steps up when others don't. And then we silence or exile the rest. The scared part that doesn't want to fail. The part that needs affection. The part that questions the path we're on. But the thing is, those parts don't disappear. They just go underground. And while the outside might look solid, the inside starts to crack. That's when burnout hits, or the joy disappears, or the anxiety that used to be background noise turns into something louder. And then, what usually happens? We double down. More productivity hacks, more pressure, more control. But that's not strength. That's armor. Real strength doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means reclaiming the parts of you that got left behind. Wholeness is not self-improvement. It's self-reclamation. Not about fixing, but about integrating. The parts that feel too sensitive, the ones that want to cry, the ones that want to get angry, the ones that need connection. Those aren't flaws. Those are parts of you waiting to be heard. And the more you push them away, the more you want to wish them away, the more they will show up in other ways, through self-sabotage, through reactivity, through exhaustion. Integration means inviting those parts back to the table and not judging them. Because every part of you has a reason for being there. Every part has a positive intention, even the ones that seem like a problem. The people pleaser? learn to keep the peace. The critic tries to keep you safe. The part that procrastinates might be protecting you from shame. They're not broken. They're doing what they know. So if fixing yourself doesn't work, what does? Integration looks like cooperation, not control. When your parts work together, then you don't have to force it. You lead with calm. You respond instead of react. You stop running from the parts that you're afraid of. That's when everything feels lighter. Not because life's easier, but because you're no longer at war with yourself. And this shows up everywhere. Relationships start to feel safer. Work feels more meaningful. Decisions get clearer, faster. And when stress hits, it doesn't knock you down like it used to, because the part of you that panics doesn't take over. You listen to it, but you don't become overwhelmed by it, and you don't have to follow it. That's what emotional strength looks like in real life. Not holding it together, but instead holding space for what's inside and still moving forward. But integration isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of the next one. Because when you start to live from wholeness, something really interesting can happen. You start to notice the gaps again, but not as flaws, instead as invitations. To ground even deeper. To tune your radar even sharper. To stay open through the discomfort. The whole grow cycle, GROW, ground, radar, openness, wholeness. This cycle doesn't stop, it spirals. Each time you complete it, the next level opens up. And you don't become someone new, you become more of who you have always been. More calm, more clear, more connected. Not through performing, but through being present. And I've seen this play out again and again. There's one client I've worked with, let's call him Adrian. He was in his late 30s when he came to me, top of his field, had the great resume, and on paper, his life looked great. But he was running on fumes. At home, he felt distant, and at work, he felt numb. He kept wondering when it was finally going to feel good. We started with grounding, just helping him to notice and feel his body from the inside, helping him to notice his own emotions in real time. Then we worked on tuning his radar, figuring out what parts of him were taking over when the stress hit. He opened up to parts of himself he hadn't even noticed in 20 or more years. That scared middle school kid who felt like a loser. The teenager who swore that he'd never be weak again. And then we did the work of integration, not by trying to erase those parts, but by understanding them and leading them. Nowadays, he still gets stress, he still gets triggered, and he still has tough days, but he's not afraid of himself anymore. He knows how to stay grounded, how to slow down and tune in, how to stay open and lead his life, not just react to it. And that's what this series has been building toward. Not a quick fix, but a deep reset. Not more tools to control life, but a process for living with clarity, even when it's hard. Not perfection, but presence. And if that sounds like something worth growing into, then let this sink in. You don't need to become someone else. You need to come back to your true self.
Many high achievers struggle when it comes to managing their emotions or navigating their relationships, and they hit a wall when it comes to emotional mastery. Maybe you've noticed that stress, frustration, or anger is seeping into your personal or professional life, or you feel disconnected from those you care about. That's where David Tian's Emotional Mastery Program comes in. It's based on peer-reviewed, evidence-backed therapeutic methods to help you find happiness, love, and real fulfillment. Learn how to break free from the emotional roller coaster and start thriving in every area of your life. You can find out more at davidtianphd.com/emotional mastery. That's DAVIDTIANPhD.com/emotional mastery.
Now here's the second main point. Most people don't realize how much energy goes into pretending. Pretending not to feel hurt. Pretending to have it all together. Pretending to care less than they actually do. And the cost of that pretending is incredibly high. That weight doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in. A little bit more numbness. A little more distance. Another day that feels like going through the motions. But behind it all, something else is happening inside. The parts inside that have been pushed down, they don't give up. They wait. They wait for a quiet moment, for a crack in the armor, for a second of honesty. And when that happens, it can often feel, for those parts that have been trying to keep them down, it can often feel overwhelming. But the truth is, those parts aren't the problem. Those parts are the path. Real emotional strength doesn't come from avoiding those parts. It comes from turning towards them, listening, leading, integrating. And that's what the second point's about. Integration is the goal, and it's also the path forward. Every part of you, especially the ones that seem weak or needy or embarrassing or out of control, has something to offer you. Those parts protect you. They carry old pain. They hold keys to what it means to feel alive. In IFS therapy, internal family systems therapy, we don't try to get rid of any parts. Not that we could, even if we tried. Instead, we get to know them. We lead them. And that's what most high performers miss. They think more control leads to better results. They think performance leads to peace. But performance without coherence doesn't lead to peace, it leads to pressure. When your parts are at war with each other, it's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other foot on the brake. You might still get somewhere, but it will not feel smooth. It will not feel calm. And eventually, it wears you out. Integration brings coherence. And coherence gives rise to presence, to clarity, to creative power. Because now the energy that used to go into suppressing or overcompensating is available for something better. And this is where wholeness becomes more than just an idea. It becomes a felt experience. A past client I worked with, we'll call him Rob. He spent years crushing it at work. Late nights, he was always on, always doing the thing, in his words. But the more he achieved, the more he felt disconnected. He kept pushing, hoping it would just click. When he came to me, he didn't talk about burnout. He talked about feeling hollow. Like success was just something to chase, not something to feel. We started doing parts work, IFS parts work. He didn't love the idea at first. It felt too soft for him. He was used to solving problems, not sitting with them. But little by little, we uncovered the parts of him that were running his show. There was a part that always needed to prove something. There's another part that felt like a failure if he slowed down. And there was a part that he tried to bury for years, the part that carried the shame for not being man enough back when he was a young kid. We gave those parts space. We listened. We tried to understand them as best we could. He didn't need to fix them. He needed to understand them. And once he did, part by part, his internal system changed. He stopped fighting himself. The old pressure to be better didn't control him anymore. The need to perform gave way to real connection. At work, in his relationship, and with himself. His team at work noticed. His girlfriend noticed. But more than that, he noticed. He felt it. For the first time in years, he could actually enjoy the successes he had built. That's what happens when the inside lines up. There's less noise, less second-guessing, less of that constant tension between who you are and who you think you should be. And that's what integration is. Not perfection, not self-help tactics, but a return to inner leadership. So instead of being driven by fear or shame or pressure, you're led by clarity, by presence, by purpose. This is how emotional strength gets built. Not by cutting out the parts that feel hard, but by bringing them home. When the war inside stops, the world outside feels different. Not easier, but more honest. And that's where fulfillment comes from. So if the old way hasn't been working for you, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been trying to perform instead of lead. So the goal isn't to arrive. The goal is to return again and again with more clarity than before. This is the third main point. Wholeness isn't the end of the journey. It's the start of a deeper one. Because once the parts inside stop fighting, something else can show up. Space. You stop wasting energy holding yourself up. You stop needing to prove anything. And for the first time in a long time, there's room for you to feel what's true for you. to feel that you, just by your very nature, are enough. That's what happened for Rob. You might remember he came in running on fumes. Work was fine on paper, but something felt off. He didn't feel it, any of it. His wins, his milestones, they came and went like boxes checked off a checklist. We started slow, grounding, slowing things down, helping him notice his own body from the inside, his breath, and then his emotions, not because he needed to analyze them, but because they were the signals that he'd been training himself to ignore. That alone was really hard for him. He wasn't used to noticing. Then came radar, G-R-O-W, radar. He began spotting the stories that his mind told him on autopilot, the inner critics, the part that panicked if he wasn't productive every second, the fear that he'd fall behind if he took a breath. But he didn't try to shut those down. Instead, he learned how to listen to them, turn to them, and try to understand them without letting them take over or overwhelm him. Then came the hardest part for him, openness, the O in the grow. Not just understanding the parts, but feeling them, noticing the sadness that he had buried with them, the anger he wasn't allowing himself to feel, the need to be held, which felt way too raw at first. That's when the big breakthroughs came. They didn't look like fireworks. Instead, they looked like a lot of silence. But he stopped numbing. He stopped forcing. And he started feeling. Feeling with, feeling through. And that opened the door to the W in grow, wholeness. Not by fixing the parts, but instead by holding the space for them, making room for all of them. Noticing when the achiever stepped in. Letting the tired parts speak. Even checking in with the one that always wanted to run away. Each one had important things to say. Each one mattered. And here's something that's easy to miss. Rob didn't become a new person. Instead, he felt more like himself than he had in years. His energy came back, but it wasn't frantic. His voice slowed down. His body relaxed. His girlfriend said he seemed more there, more present. And it all started because he stopped chasing a version of success that was never designed to feel good. He didn't just work on himself. He led himself. And that's the point of this entire mini-series. It's not to give you tools to become someone else. It's to help you return to your true self. The GROW, G-R-O-W, the GROW method is a cycle. Ground, radar, openness, wholeness. But wholeness takes you back to ground. Only now it's deeper. Now you're not starting over from scratch. Now the ground holds more of you. More self-leadership, more calm, more strength that isn't loud, but is instead steady. And the next time a challenge comes up, which of course it will, you'll move through it differently. You'll feel more, not less. You'll connect faster, stay present longer. You'll know how to lead from within, without having to fake anything. That's what real emotional strength is. Not perfection, whatever that is. Not power in the old sense of dominance or control. But instead, presence, clarity, the ability to show up with your full self, no matter what's happening around you. So if you've been following along this mini-series and something's been landing for you, maybe there's a quiet yes inside. This is where it leads, not to an end point, but to a new beginning, a cycle worth repeating, each time with more of you included. If this series has done one thing, I hope it's helped you question the old idea of strength. Not the emotional strength that shuts down, or holds back, or pushes through no matter what, but instead the emotional strength that listens, the strength that leads from the inside out. We started with grounding, learning how to feel solid without needing to control everything. Then we moved into radar, building the awareness to spot the patterns that keep you stuck. We opened into vulnerability, learning how to stay present with the feelings that most people run from. And now we've landed here, at wholeness, the quiet confidence that comes from accepting every part of yourself, not just the ones that might look good on paper. If this work doesn't happen, the costs aren't just emotional. They're physical, relational, existential. It's waking up every morning and wondering why none of it feels worth it. It's burning out from chasing success that never feels like enough. It's watching your relationships go shallow or fall apart because the real you never got a voice. But when you do this inner work, when you show up for yourself fully, it all starts to integrate and align. You feel calm even in chaos. You stop performing and start connecting. You get clearer in your career. Your relationships get deeper. Your mind gets quieter. You don't need to prove yourself anymore because you know who you truly are. That's what emotional strength is. And it's not just possible, it's trainable, step by step. So if this miniseries spoke to you, don't stop here. Let this be the moment you stop waiting and start becoming whole again. If you're ready to take this deeper, I guide clients through this exact journey, live, step by step. Head to my website, click the Work with David tab, and check out the training programs I offer. If this work resonated, that's where the real transformation begins. Thanks so much for listening. If this has helped you in any way, please share it with anyone else that you think could benefit from it. If you liked it, hit a like or give it a good rating on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And if you have any comments whatsoever, I'd love your feedback. Leave a comment or send me a message. I'd love to hear it. Again, thank you so much for listening. I look forward to welcoming you to the next episode. Until then, David Tian, signing out.